Hello, everybody. My name's Pat, and I'm going to be your tutor for trigonometry. And just going to do about 10-15 minutes of some preliminary work. This is a lot of stuff that you'll cover in section 6.1, maybe some 6.2 stuff. But I'm also going to go over some things that that'll be helpful that are not in the book or not in the curriculum. So first things first, calculators. If you're going to do trig, you got to have a calculator, and they all have trig functions on them. It doesn't really matter which one you get, but have a calculator, otherwise you're going to be difficult to do the class. It doesn't have to be a graphing calculator, just a regular calculator that's got sine, cosine, and tangent functions on it, as well as all the rest of the stuff. So let's get rolling here. Some of your, in section 6.1, your first go around here, you're going to see what they call simple triangle trigonometry. All right. And what I have on the board here are a 45, 45, and 90-degree triangle, and I have a 30, 60, 90-degree triangle. And I've drawn two apiece because throughout this class, you will be using this construct to solve tons of problems. So it's very important to memorize what I have here on the board. Now, this is in the book, and it's in your own book, so you don't have to write this down now if you don't want to, but you want to memorize this. So starting in the upper left-hand corner here, I've got a 30, 60, 90 triangle, and I have the sides labeled 2, 1, and the square root of 3. You will see this all the time when you're solving problems in this class. When you have a hypotenuse of 2, then the other sides are 1 and square root of 3. What I encourage you to do is to use Pythagorean theorem. And you remember what that is? That's just x squared plus y squared is equal to, we'll call it r squared. In this case, r would be the hypotenuse, x would be the horizontal, and y would be the vertical. All right. So if you sit here and you square 1 and you square the square root of 3 and you add them up, you get 2. All right. So just verify that these numbers are correct using the Pythagorean theorem. But you'll want to memorize these. You won't want to have to sit here and use the Pythagorean theorem if you're given one side and one angle. You can use the Pythagorean theorem to get to the answer, but you want to have this stuff memorized. So for a 30, 60, 90 triangle, there are two scenarios that we're going to see all the time. We're going to see it with a hypotenuse of 2. You need to know that the sine of 30 degrees is 1 over 2, and you need to know that the sine of 60 degrees is root 3 over 2, and cosine of 30 is root 3 over 2. All right. You'll also see this triangle like this, where they have a hypotenuse of 1. All right. And this will be referenced in what they call the unit circle, which you'll get introduced to probably by the end of the week or first thing next week. When the hypotenuse is 1, then the sides take on 1/2 and root 3 over 2. All right. Another triangle that you're going to see a lot is the 45, 45, 90 triangle. All right. And these are the typical scenarios that you'll see with typical numbers on them to solve problems. One of them is where the hypotenuse is the square root of 2. If that's the case, then both sides are 1. And when you have hypotenuse equal to 1, both sides are root 2 over 2, root 2 over 2. This can also be written as 1 over square root of 2. You'll see it like that. If you multiply top and bottom of this by the square root of 2, you end up getting square root of 2 over 2. They're the same thing. So memorize this stuff. It's important. The next thing, I'm going to erase all of this. So again, this is in your books, so you shouldn't have to need this, but I'm going to erase this. Unfortunately, I don't have a tool where I can just erase some. I'm going to erase the whole thing before we can kind of move on. So that's what we will do. So let's erase all this. The next thing that you're going to want to memorize for trig is these conversions from degrees to radians. And if you don't know what a radian is yet, don't worry about it. This is 45. Excuse my crap in writing. This is 30, 60 degrees. Well, this is equal to pi over 4 radians. Don't worry if you don't understand what radians means. Just know that 45 degrees is equal to pi over 4 radians. 30 degrees is equal to pi over 6 radians. And 60 degrees is equal to pi over 3 radians. All right? That's pretty sloppy. Let me just do that again. All right? Goodness gracious. What is wrong with this thing? 40 to pi over 4. Technical difficulties. Pi over 6 and 60 degrees is equal to pi over 30. These are all radians. All right, radians. So you definitely want to memorize this. You want to know 45 is pi 4, 30 is pi 6, 60 is pi thirds. Now you'll get an introduction to the unit circle here probably next week, and they'll go through a lot more of these conversions that you need to know. But all the ones you need to know, you can get from just knowing these. So these are your big boys that are really important. Sometimes you'll have, throughout the name of the course, they'll say give an exact answer as opposed to giving an inexact answer. And what they mean by that is an exact answer is not an answer that you can get from your calculator. So if you're going to get a sine or a cosine or find an angle, it's easy to sit there and use your calculator and figure that out without necessarily understanding some of the more detail that they want you to understand. So they will have homework problems where it says, find this angle exactly. Okay, so if you already see, if you see something in there that says exactly, find the angle exactly, find the sine exactly, you can't do it with a calculator. You got to be able to do it analytically with your pen and pencil on the paper. That's what they're getting at when they say that. Some people get confused over that. Another thing that is probably in your preliminary stuff is sometimes they'll give you, and I'll show you, they'll give you degrees in decimal form, and sometimes they'll give you degrees in degrees, minutes, seconds form, and you got to know what to do with those. So let's say, and this is in your book, and in the book in your class will show you how to do this, but I just thought I'd go over this because some people don't. So let's say you've got 5 degrees, and I'm going to, Jesus, 42 minutes and 30 seconds. That's a 30 seconds. So 5 degrees, 42 minutes, 30 seconds. You have 60 seconds per minute, and you have 60 minutes per degree. All right. So before you can do anything with this, as far as finding out what the sine or the cosine is, or etc., you have to convert this to decimal form. So what we do to do that is we start on the seconds, and we divide that by 60 because there's 60 seconds in 1 minute. So we're going to convert this 30 seconds to minutes. So what we do is we'll have a 5 degrees plus 42 minutes plus 30 over 60. All right, so that's 30 seconds, and this is 60 seconds per minute. All right, I just used the minute sign here. So you flip that up anyway, the units up. So that's 0.5. So this is going to be equal to 5 degrees. Oh, there goes my pen again. Plus 42.5 minutes. I'll write that again. So it's 5 degrees plus 42.5 minutes. We've gotten rid of the seconds. Right? Just took the seconds, we divided by 60 because there's 60 seconds in a minute. So we reduce that down to 0.5 minutes. We add the 0.5 minutes to the 42, and we have 42.5. Now we do the same thing for the 42.5. We divide that by 60 to get that into degrees. All right. So we just take that, and this is going to be 5 degrees plus 42.5 minutes over 60 minutes per degree. And that is going to be equal to, this fraction here is equal to 0.7. So this is going to be 5.71 degrees. And you do the math to verify that. All right. So now we have 5.71 degrees. So 5.71 degrees is equal to 5 degrees, 42 minutes, 30 seconds. So you want to be comfortable doing these conversions. All right. And you can also go the other way. Right. Sometimes you're given decimal, and they might ask you to convert it back to degrees, minutes, seconds. And you just reverse the procedure. Instead of dividing by 60, you're going to end up multiplying by 60 to go back. Let's see. I think that is probably going to be it for some of the preliminary stuff. Just remember that of all the things we talked about here, the 45-45 90 triangle and the 30-60 90 triangle, and the different versions of them, where the hypotenuse changes from 1 to 2. That has to be memorized, otherwise you will struggle in this class. Also, pi fourths, pi thirds, pi sixths, 45 degrees is pi fourths, radians. Pi over 3 radians is equal to 60 degrees, and pi over 6 radians is equal to 30 degrees. Got to memorize that stuff. Anyway, that's it for the intro, and then I'll open this thing up for questions here as soon as we get some bodies in the box here. Thanks, you guys. See ya.